Hello, welcome back to the Victorian Sims challenge. I know it's been a couple weeks. I've been sick. I got laryngitis and then barely got over that and then caught another virus. I love my job, but oh my gosh, the amount of sicknesses I am exposed to is absolutely insane. But we are back and we are here with the Jung household. So things are starting off on a calm note here. Of course, we know with the Jungs that means very little for the actual outcome of an episode. But we have Lydia and Peter, the kind of matriarch and patriarch here, and their kids Willard and Evelyn. And they also have their cousin, Wenling, living with them at the moment as well. So it's not quite as bustling as it was previously. We also have Willard's wife. This is Ida Elmstone. She is in the first trimester of her first pregnancy, which is super exciting. So we're gonna have, is that Gen 5? Yeah, I think we're gonna have Gen 5 coming up soon. So the Baos did move out. I think it was last rotation or the rotation before. As you saw in the vignette, things aren't exactly going very smoothly for them, which is really honestly par for the course when it comes to the Jung household. We do still own the vineyard and the winery, and here we actually have, this is Thompson Grover, that's Jonah's eldest son. Of course, we haven't seen Jonah in a long time because he passed away, but we also decide to send the women out, and not just the women, but we have the women out as a bit of a chaperone situation. It's also at this moment that I realized Willard and Ida had never actually kissed, and they've been married and they have a baby on the way, so they just go ahead and get that out of the way on their own without consulting me, which is fine because I apparently forgot that it hadn't happened. So this is Archibald Lawson, and Archie is courting Evelyn. You can see that Evelyn has just fallen in love with him. They've been courting for a little bit of time now and will continue to court for a while because Archie is going to be going to Cambridge soon, so he is a little bit younger than her, and he's got, I think, another full sim week before he actually will become an adult. He'll be moving off to university and becoming a young adult soon, and so my young adults essentially spend the second half of their teenagehood as young adults, and that's kind of how I factor it in, in real time, because we understand that The Sims 2 has some limitations. I also make this really grave error, and I am convinced in my brain that Wenling and Archie are courting, and so I accidentally have Archie kind of flirt with Wenling, and she's like, absolutely not, this is terrible. And it is terrible because Wenling and her cousin Evelyn are best friends. They've grown up together, but thankfully no one saw, apparently, and there are no repercussions to my very silly mistake because Evelyn and Archie end up sharing their first kiss. They are both in love with each other at this point, and so their courtship is going off quite well. I mean, should they really be canoodling quite like this in such a public setting? No, but we've got so many chaperones here. I'm not worried that anything, particularly bad is going to happen. And they end up with a dream date. So all of our efforts, I think, actually pay off pretty well. And they're rolling so many wants for each other. It's really exciting. So back at the main household, it's Evelyn's birthday. She's aging up into an adult, and I'm really excited for her. I give her this cute little mushroom outfit that I've been working on. This isn't quite the final iteration of it, but I just wanted to test it out in game. So I've launched my custom content creation experience, and it's going okay. Some of the dresses I've released are not very good, but thank you to all of you who download them anyway. And so Wenling is going to be following Evelyn very shortly and aging up into an adult soon, but her cousin aging up into an adult hasn't really affected their actual relationship. They're still really close. And Archie also drops off this TV that's worth about 2,000 simoleons. So instead of selling it, I put it in Evelyn's inventory, and that will just add to her dowry. So Wenling is actually taking a lot of time to paint. She's really an artistic sim and enjoys kind of like spending time creatively. So I love that Faye's old easels are getting used. And these two have another little canoodle, but I'm not really worried about it because she's already pregnant. So I thought it was time to send Peter and Willard out into the world and have a little drink at Old Hattie Clark's pub. So this is a very frequent haunt for Peter. As you may recall from the previous season, he has a little bit of a drinking issue. And so him kind of bringing his son into that situation is a little complex, but Willard has seen this his whole life. He doesn't necessarily think it's anything unusual. And so Willard agrees. Like, he's almost an adult too. Like, the kids are growing up and he wants to spend time with his dad and actually get some attention from his dad, because Peter is not exactly the best father, and I don't think that's news that surprises anyone. But one thing that I do really love about Willard is that he will talk to anyone. So Willard does not really concern himself with class differences. Yes, they're kind of staunchly middle class at this point, but he's still friends with the lower classes. He's friends with, I think that those were the Westcotts, like Seamus Westcott, and we also have Brendan Lillard. Like, they're both very lower class sims, and he still goes off and greets them very friendly and excitedly. And that's just, I love Willard. Like, I love that for him. He's a very angsty sim. He's never in a good mood, but it's not like Julian level like angst, but then again, nothing is. We also have Aldous Jung, which I was really excited to see because Aldous has his head screwed on so well for a Jung. Like, this man is so sensible. I love him. And so I was really excited to see him out in the wild. Like, I didn't actually invite anyone over to the pub. They just kind of showed up. Aldous doesn't come around as often as he could be expected to. He's pretty busy. He's got his own life and family now. So Wenling ages up into an adult, and she doesn't exactly end up particularly well, but we do give her 10,000 simoleons for her dowry. For her, it's not really going to be used as a dowry per se because she's not really being courted by anyone, but we'll get into that a little bit later. So I almost miss Ida's birth, which this is why you don't use 3 times speed, but I had never learned my lesson. So this is Seymour Clarence. He is our heir, and he is blonde and freckled. I never thought we would see the day where we have a blonde, freckled heir with blue eyes for the Jungs. Like, this is just so surprising. He takes after the Lawsons so much. So it's probably about 6 a.m. It's pretty early. The rest of the household is still like asleep or getting dressed. And Wenling decides to head out into town. She dons her cloak because it's early and a little frosty and chilly outside. Now, she ends up meeting with a group of people that you will probably recognize. So we have Ebba King, that's Daisy's daughter. We also have Gregory Westerfield, whom we have not seen in a hot minute. And Gregory's aunt, Maxine Westerfield, and then we've got Cedric Cunningham, who we also haven't seen in a while. So this group collectively, including Wenling, comprises the intellectual society in town. So they have a little bit of an intellectual salon going on where they meet at the O'Neilly bookshop. This is Maurice O'Neilly's bookshop, and they discuss pertinent political concerns. So the first thing they are really interested in tackling is the voting system. So ideally, they want to get to a place where women can run for office as mayor in town, but that's a couple steps ahead. And so they are working first on considering suffrage. And that's super exciting because at the moment we only have male votes being counted for the mayoral vote. And we can get into the whole voting process a little bit more later on when we have our next mayor. But I have kind of mentioned it in the past. It's a very simple process. They meet once a week and they discuss these things, some activism and some ideas that they have to get to their goals. And what I really love about the intellectual society here is that we're a very like diverse and interesting group of people. Like we have Ebba, who, as we know, was, you know, not born to a married couple, and we have Wenling, who is from Hong Kong. We have Maxine, who is trans. So we have a lot of these really interesting characters here who have personal stakes, I would say, in the process of suffrage. And it's also just like, I love how rainy and cloudy and gloomy it is as this is happening. Like, it just kind of adds to the coziness. And they do not shy away from hard topics, and they do not shy away from disagreeing with each other. So I'm really excited to see what happens. I'm anticipating on Ebba kind of writing some tracts and writing some pamphlets, because Ebba is a bit of a writer, as we know from some of her focus in the King episodes. And so she's going to be kind of keeping track of the minutes, and she's really kind of like the secretary of the group. So that's really exciting. I've been waiting around for the right time for the Intellectual Society to kind of pop up. We've had mentions of it in the past with Cedric and Gregory, but we haven't really gotten to focus on it yet. And so this is kind of a new and exciting moment for New Whitby. We're starting to progress politically, and I wanted that to happen in a bit of an organic way. Also, because Cedric's here, Faye just shows up. This girl does not get a hint. I don't know how Faye knew that Cedric was here, but she's got this hopeless crush on him, and it's apparently going to last throughout adulthood. So, we also have Mariana here. So Mariana, as you might remember, is the maid for the King household. And she has a little bit of a budding romance going on with Wenling, although Wenling is a little bit more comfortable in her sexuality than Mariana is. And so Mariana's kind of been struggling with that a little bit, especially considering her place in the King household and the possible repercussions that might happen if her employer finds out, because like it was one thing to, you know, be employed by Ernest, who was a very loving and gentle and accepting sim, and it's something completely different to be employed by Annalise and Charles. But we'll see how that plays out a little bit more in the King household. Wenling goes home and she starts to kind of think about all of the people who might be interested in their causes. But ultimately, she's just really excited for the next generation and hopeful that her little cousins and nieces and nephews are going to help to create this kind of exciting, inspired New Whitby that she dreams of. Also, this baby is just so cute. He does not look like a Jung at all. I'm really interested to see what happens when he ages up into a toddler. And Lydia and Ida are actually really good friends. So Lydia has been a really good Jung spouse in that she and Peter are perfect for each other, but she's not as unstable as the rest of the Jungs, and so it's been a while since she's had like a good friend in the household other than Peter, and so her and Ida, I think, are going to be that for each other, which is such a good thing because they're gonna be, you know, trapped in this house together for a long time, essentially the rest of Lydia's life. But at the moment, we have a really good vibe going on in the entire household. All of the women get along so well. It's such a drama-free house, which is the first time in a while that I would say we could say that. I mean, that rarely happens with the Jungs, but things are calm. And even Peter is becoming a bit of a doting grandfather, which is really interesting to see considering the fact that he wasn't involved like at all with Willard growing up, if I'm remembering correctly. Like, Willard's angst and poor mood, I think, is a direct repercussion of his father's like emotional absence in his life. And so I think Willard is probably going to look on his father's new relationship with his grandson perhaps with a little bit of envy. So it's time for Willard to age up into an adult. Not much is going to change for Willard other than him finally joining the political career. So he does have a lifetime want to become the mayor. We'll see if that happens. I mean, a Jung as a mayor, like, I don't know. I don't know, guys. I'm not sure that's gonna happen. These two are also autonomously having a little fun, and you know, I let them. Like, he's an adult now too, and so they do have a baby. I'm interested in them having another one because I do think a little girl for them would be absolutely adorable. So unfortunately, when I moved this house into the subhood, I actually lost the beautiful portrait I have of them from their wedding day. It was probably like my favorite portrait that I have ever taken in The Sims 2. It looked so good. So we're trying to recreate it. We have Cedric come back over to do a little bit of painting. I'm struggling with the camera controls of it, and it's not going near as swimmingly as I would have hoped it would. But it's okay. You know, it's fine. Like, some things are lost, and I'm just glad I didn't have to rebuild the entire house, because we know with The Sims 2 that is always a possibility. In fact, there are about 2 lots in game that do not work that I need to rebuild and fix, and I'm putting it off. I might just sacrifice The Sims in those lots to just be there forever because I don't want to deal with it. And we have like 35 households at minimum. I would say we might actually have more than that. So I'm not too worried. So here is the finished product. You can see that it's okay. Like, the framing could be better, but we're gonna take it with a grain of salt. And things are really happy here. Peter and Lydia have continued to age so well into their relationship. I think they might actually be like the best match that I've ever made. Like, they are both such fun, loving spirits, and it's just so nice to see in a Jung household having a good marriage. So Seymour ages up into a toddler. He's got some bright blonde hair. But before that happens, I did have Cedric. He is still working on a painting that I wanted to commemorate of Seymour's birthday. I do kind of want to utilize Cedric a little bit more in the neighborhood by creating some beautiful portraits. So feel free to remind me to do that. Yes, I'm talking to you, Justice, because you always remind me to do things. You and Shadow. So here's Seymour. He is an adorable toddler, and he looks so much like a Jung, which I think is really great considering the fact that I originally thought he wasn't going to look like the Jungs at all because of the freckles, the blue eyes, and the blonde hair. But despite that, his facial structure is pure Jung. So it's time for Wenling to grow up and move out. She's already aged up into an adult, but it's time for her to move out, and it makes me really sentimental. Also, Ida pops into her first trimester. I had no idea she was pregnant. Like, no clue. Totally missed that one. Not sure how I did that. But the whole family is saying goodbye to the last Bao in the household, which, you know, really ends an era, I would say. So here is the little cottage that I built her. It's pretty small. Yeah, that is where we are going to end off today. Hopefully the next episode that we release is going to be a Decades episode. We are a bit behind on that, but I just wanted to get something out, and I had more recording and content for this one at the moment. So thank you so much for all of your love and support, and in the meantime, I'll hang out with you in the Discord. Bye!